Okay, thank you. And we will be recording this really quick. I'm going to share my screen and just to kind of help us walk through this a little bit more. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect.
It says has started sharing screen share. Oh, there we go. Got it.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me get rid of all these other things in front of me. Okay, so all I really did was take the RFP review and just boil it down a little bit for everybody. First off, did everyone have a chance to look at the RFP and really go through it?
I skimmed. I did not read well, but I just went through it briefly.
Okay.
I have to admit the same.
Okay. Okay, good. All right. So this then is what I might do is pull up the RFP as well, just so y'all can see the real RFP. But basically, the RFP review talks about communication and ongoing administrative support. So support to the advisory board that's consistent with the goals and the direction of what the advisory board is doing and what the TBID is doing. It creates and distributes the monthly, create and distribute the monthly agenda. They take minutes, they assist with posting to all the lodging owners, they manage the flow of meetings, etc. Anything to do with communicating and administration support. They attend.
Terry, I lost your, I don't know if
I did too, yes.
I did too.
I think you've got another screen showing at your end.
Oh.
We're seeing your desktop.
Really nice desktop.
I don't want you to see my desktop. Okay, let me try this.
Nice
again.
ocean. There we go.
Oh,
Whoops.
never mind. Okay, let me do that again. I know it's happening now. I believe I know it's happening. Okay. Now, is it on now?
Yes.
Yes.
It is.
Yep.
I will leave it stay put. I moved it over to my second screen and that's what happened. I apologize. So with the RFP review, we have the communication and ongoing administrative support. This basically is the support that this administrative services gives to the advisory board that's consistent with the goals and the direction of the TBID. They create and distribute the monthly agenda. They take the minutes. They assist with posting to all the lodging owners, managing flow of meetings, et cetera. Anything to do with communicating meetings and getting that information out there is what their role is. They attend the appropriate local events and related tourism meetings that are specific to tourism. So if one of you are having a grand opening or whatever that might be, or there's a focus on tourism at the chamber meeting or something like that, a chamber mixer, whatever, they're there in attendance and supporting that effort. It's not crucial that they're there, but that's what that would be. It would be something of that local level. If Visits Locale is doing something that's specific and we want to have them there, they can be there for that. They also work with the board to submit code enforcement complaints and work with short-term rental contractors. Right now that's host compliance, which is Granicus, but down the road it might be something different. We also have them provide updates in the monthly meetings as far as the short-term rental stuff goes and where things are. With meeting coordination, in this role, they would work to coordinate the monthly agenda from presenting attendees and assuring that there's a quorum. So if there's different attendees that come in, like from Craft Beer Festival or Cider Festival, they're coordinating that effort, making sure that they're coming in and making sure they're holding them accountable to what the contract commitment is. They also would coordinate the lodging owner meetings. When there's a term of a board member that's up for renewal, they would coordinate that effort with the lodging owners.
Terry?
Yes.
There is some background interference. I don't know, maybe.
I would say if everyone mutes themselves, that'd probably be helpful. I hear it too.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? That's me.
Okay. Did y'all have any questions so far? So on to event coordination, they would manage.
Sorry, hey Terry, I just got one question about the like the local events and things like that. Would that be part of like what their fee is, or would that be like additional? I feel like sometimes like Big Red would be like, if we're gonna attend this event, we're gonna charge more. I'm trying to recall, but maybe.
Yeah, so if it's an event that's local here, like let's say Home to Suites has their grand opening, that's not something that, you know, they would, it's up to them if they want to be there, but typically they're there to support, but Big Red didn't ask for additional money for that. That was something that they wanted to kind of be a part. If we're talking a travel for IPW and they're going out of market, then that would be in addition to what their regular contract is, because you would pay for their travel and their attendance there at IPW. And that would be up to the board to decide, because you already have Verdant Marketing representing you. It's already budgeted, it's already in that. But if you all are feeling that you need more horsepower, then yes, they could be considered for that. Okay.
Well, Terry, and I was going to bring up a similar discussion maybe later, but I think the challenge is it's not well defined what things are required and what things are optional and how we would decide those optional items. I was assuming maybe we could even tighten it up a little bit, that these are the things that are required and we have an estimated time what that would take, and that's included. And then part of the budget is a little bit leeway that would be either under the discretion of the board at a meeting or anytime by the chair to say, I'd like you to attend this or do that. And there's, you know, a budgeted amount that would allow for those kind of things, but it would get, certainly with a new contract or some direction, probably from the chair, but it could be from the whole board. You know, is that an option? I'm concerned that, you know, as you know, someone could do a really great job if they know what they're doing, and others wouldn't quite know what to do and, you know, wouldn't even know how to ask. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I think what I'll do and what we can do is we can add that clarification under event coordination. So managing event partners approved by OPBID are event partners like your craft beer festival, your Atascadero Fall Festival, your those type of things. Managing follow up with leads and tour related shows. Okay, well that's just managing the leads. So here's where it is. I'm sorry, let me get that out of there. Because I want to be able to make this adjustment as we go. It's really here where it says attends tour and travel related conferences when appropriate. And this is going to be an optional, it'll be an additional cost, right? For approval, for board approval and consideration. So it's really optional.
Yeah, so that they would just do stuff and send us a bill. It would be pre-approved.
Yeah, so I will make that optional on that particular bullet point, because that's what we're talking about with the tourism extra stuff. That was the extra stuff even for Big Red that was available for them to do, but it would be travel and all that stuff would have to be a part of that.
And that additional will be like, you know, upon the ask of the board, right? Because there was some time, there was like, I think only once or twice where it was, you know, Verdant and Big Red were like, no, I want to do this, and no, I want to do this. And we kind of, so as long as they know that Verdant's our go-to, I think we're kind of safe, right? Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more likely Verdant would do those kinds of activities. Yeah.
They're already, you know, approved to do that. The other thing is the local stuff. Attend appropriate local events and related tourism meetings. I'm just going to put optional here on this one. It's not like you're requiring them to be there. I mean, as a consultant, you would hope that they would want to be there because they're representing you guys. But I mean, I would be there, but I'm not, I get that I work in a different world in my mind as far as that goes. So that makes it a little bit more specific. And I think that was part of that clarification piece to make sure that you all saw that stuff so we could make sure it's clear. Okay, so the next slide that we have is really around the budget discussion, and why we're here today is really get an understanding as far as where you all are for that. Before we go into that though, let me stop sharing this for a minute and pull up the actual RFP, because I want you to see how it reads from here. And so hang on one second and I'll pull in the RFP. Okay, let me get up to the top of this. So this is, do you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the actual RFP, and it goes over how AppBid was formed in April 2013. It goes through all the why of everything. The ideal candidate will provide services in the areas of AppBid administration, event sponsorship, program oversight, board management and coordination, AppBid financial management, tour and travel outreach, and participate in strategic planning efforts. And then due to the nature of the tourism industry, applying firms may be asked to disclose other destinations they provide similar services to, which is going to be important. It gives the deadline of this, scope and services is what I had just gone through with you all in a much shorter version of that. Is the communication and administrative support.
Question for you, Terry. Sorry, but I'm wondering, you know, when we did this before for a larger contract, I don't think we got any response. And this is a pretty short time, going September, you know, to basically 1 month. And we certainly, that's what we need, but it may or may not be realistic. And rather than, let's say we get through to towards the end of September and we don't have any response, it'd be nice. I'd like to maybe make it to where we could delegate either to you or the chairperson to just extend that 2 weeks or a month or something, you know, just so we don't have to have another board meeting to have this discussion again, you know, but that's up to the board. But I'm, you know, hopefully we get 1 or 2 to hear about, but it could be we get none, you know, and if we plan for that contingency.
So let me,
well, I check with the rest of the board, you know, I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm not, let's do this really quick. Let me go back through what we just talked about, go into budget, and then let's talk timeline after that. I'm kind of going in the flow of the RFP, because that is definitely on the radar as far as the timeline to make sure we're not too short.
Yeah.
So going back to communication and administrative support, that's where that information came from, including short-term rentals here at the bottom. And again, ongoing administrative support with posting and making sure we have archival files in place, assisting, you know, the city with new board member requirements when we do oaths of office and Form 700 and those type of things. So these are all the details of your RFP. Meeting coordination is talked about. As far as coordinating meetings, I will add the optional pieces where appropriate, and then event coordination. We pulled in what Ashley was requiring or had mentioned would be a good thing to do with the lead generation and managing that follow-up and those type of requests that were important to get out there, surveys, things like that. And then from there we have budget. And then we'll go into timeline, Tom. So we're almost there. So on the proposal side, basically, I'm just going to talk about what my PowerPoint slide says, and that your contract history in the beginning, it was $30,000 a year, $2,500 a month for a 12-month contract. That's how Big Red had started, and very administrative-like, but always had that strategy piece in there as well. And then fast forward to today, we were at $45,200, and a lot of that was quite a bit of duplication that Verdun already is doing, and that was identified by the ad hoc committee with both Patricia and Karina. So really looking back at the administrative roles, specifically recommending a 30,000, go back to your 30,000, specifically your administrative, and we were looking at a 24-month contract if we were to start November 1st. So if that changes today, great, based on the timeline. But if we could have them in place November 1st, recommending a 2-year, 24-month contract, and then you have 3 1-year renewals that follow that make it a total of 5 years. So that is what we have gone back to recommend as far as budget based on the ad hoc. So that is up for your all's review to talk about that. And then we can talk about timeline and get that all nailed down. Does that sound good?
Where did you want to start with input?
I would just open it up for questions from the board on budget specifically. And the only, and yeah, go ahead. I did say that.
Perfect. Does anybody have any budget specific questions?
Dina is talking and you're muted, Dina, in case you.
That's okay. I was talking to somebody else.
Okay. I have some questions anyway. Shall I go ahead?
Yeah,
Take it away, Tom.
take it away.
Well, one, back to what we're asking them to do or have some expertise in. I think the one category that jumps out is anything to do with Form 700s and all of that more legal stuff. There's a lot of people would not be familiar with that. And if we were requiring it, it might scare them off. Whereas someone more with marketing background or just, office management background, they could probably do other things. But I'm wondering if we want to say that something like that would be ideal, but and make you more competitive, but wouldn't be required. Just what do you think? That not everybody is immediately familiar with that area,
And it would be more ongoing administrative support and assisting the city with, the new board member requirements and getting that coordinated with what has to happen next. And of course, you would have your deputy city clerk like Amanda that would be coordinating that effort, but it's having that communication, if you will, and that coordination where they would say, okay, we got 2 new board members. What do we do with them? It's that sort of thing. And then they're coached through that process and kind of help us communicate out to them that this needs to happen is what that is. It's part of that.
I'm okay with that. And I'd assume if someone came in with less familiar with that, you've kind of had to train Big Red, you kind of had to train other folks, you would do that up front. Then we'd expect them to be a pre-processor in a sense. Then that's okay. That sounds fine.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea too, Tom. I mean, I feel like me personally, I've made Amanda work pretty hard to get my 700 form.
Yes.
So like, if they were versed and in these meetings, it's like, hey guys, here is some 700 forms. Please fill them out and get them back to me by the next meeting. That might help, I think, everyone.
Well, if you weren't so darn wealthy, Amar, you wouldn't have to work so hard to 700 forms.
So that would be a great help. And I think the only question I had going back to I guess IPW you brought up as an example, Terry, like if Verdun was going to IPW with all the leads and stuff that they got, would Verdun, have to hand that off to whoever, this organization or this entity would be, or is it the kind of thing that Verdun could just send to all of us to cut on some of that duplication that the ad hoc committee found? You know what I mean? Like, because the budget and the scope of work looks great to me. It looks like there's, a good opportunity that there was a lot of, reduction in scope of work for both sides. So just thinking about IPW and leads and getting them out to board members, would that stay on Verdun? Would that be handed off to whoever this, company is that comes in?
And it could be even as simple as a coordination effort of that information, making sure they're coordinating, making sure they're helping, communicate. It's all about that communication administrative side to get that information out. Verdun can do the same thing. Verdun shares the MailChimp account that we have with getting information out. It's just making sure that happens. And I think that's more of that safety net, but we had made sure that it was on there with some of the survey information that happens after some of these events, as well as the lead generation stuff. And Ashley wanted to make sure that the survey stuff was on there follow-up, whatever that follow-up is that they're making sure that follow-up maybe happens, and communicating to Verdon or communicating with them that that took place.
Okay.
So however fine-tuned we want to talk about that, we can definitely make it more specific.
Okay.
Well, I agree with everything Amr said, and I do think realistically, we'd have to think that either Terry, maybe the board chair, would kind of do more review with what's going on for the first 3 months or so, because it will be a little bit of a getting used to this if it's someone that's, you know, not necessarily involved with this all the time.
Yeah.
As long as we understand that, I don't think it changes our RFP, but I think either Terry or, you know, chair or, you know, rather than the whole board, you know, that would be good.
And that definitely, I mean, that part on my end,
Yeah, that'd be good.
yeah, making sure the follow-up happens. And now I have budget up, and the budget is where we just talked about that, and then we went into examples of work, proposal submittal, you know, what all the details of proposal submittal are listed from what we've done in the past. Moving on from there, we have proposal format, what it should look like, and then how the selection will take place, what kind of criteria will be used to evaluate, and then the schedule. So the schedule, you know, I know it's pretty aggressive, Tom, and I would say, you know, if we wanted to push it as far as starting January 1, you know, that's something we could do. It's kind of that onboarding process that happens November, you know, for the November
Right.
time. If we do have somebody and they are following that flow, we're able to make that happen, then it's an onboarding from there until they have their real first meeting.
Well, I'm just wondering, and I don't care either way too strongly, but I think realistically, I'll be well pleased if we got one really good applicant, let alone two. But if we don't, rather than reconvening and say, well, okay, what do? We
Yeah.
pre-planned that, okay, if you have no, or at least not even one, you know, that you, maybe the board chair and you, or however you want to do it, say, we just don't have enough to make a decision, that you know you can automatically just send out a note that we're extending the deadline by something, 2 weeks, a month. And then we don't have to, you know, delay that process because we pre-decided for that contingency.
Well, we're off in the months of July and December from our meeting schedule. So if we wanted to just go ahead and adjust to the dates a month later, so we would be.
Are you saying you'd rather just have a longer period out rather than having, let's try to see if we get it in a month, and if we don't, then extend it? Is that what you're saying? You'd rather just have a longer period where it's open?
I'd rather have a longer period
Okay.
open than to go back and change it again. And I think because we're off in the month of December, then that would bring it to the November TBID meeting. Hopefully we have proposals to review, and then they start fresh January 1 or January.
Well, I've said my piece and have no other opinion. So whatever the board's pleasure is on that.
I'm kind of in agreement with you. I like the idea of having a longer period if that's what we need to do, rather than, you know, adding in that extra time at the end. I'd be hopeful that that gets us a few additional, but based on what you guys have said before, I don't know that it will. But I like the idea of extending that period and then having them start in January, so we're not in a rush to try and get it done and have them start on November 1st, because we might be able to, you know, have a little bit better of a selection process, hopefully. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I agree with both Tom and Patricia.
I agree too.
So back to budget. And then I think we can look at our motions and make the appropriate motion on a couple of the changes that we have to all of this. I've kept track of them. I know that's probably not for me, but budget would be the next. And then I know we definitely, after we have questions on that, we'll have to go to public. Any questions on budget from the board?
Other than it's a maximum of basically 30,000 a year, 60,000 for the 2-year period, correct?
Yes.
Should we have a buffer there just in case if someone comes back and they're like, well, I won't, I'll only do it for 35, like, should we have a buffer that's approved now so it doesn't have to come back, you know what I mean? Like, and do a special meeting for approval, or yeah, I'm just wondering about that, especially if there's not going to be a lot of competition.
You could always give a range, maybe. That's another, or not put it at all.
If you did a range, you could also throw in a fudge factor of depending on qualifications. We're looking at this range, so someone knows if they're coming in with not much experience, they should figure we're going to be tougher. But then if somebody really good comes in, then we probably wouldn't mind paying more anyway, so I think I could go either way on that one. I think I'm concerned either we're paying too much for somebody who probably doesn't quite know what they're doing, or we're getting a really good deal if they really can do everything, for the value. So that's what's tough. But I think we just have to get out there and see what we get.
Yeah, I agree. That 30,000 budget a year, that was the budget, I guess, 6 years ago, 2015, like you said. And I think at that time we didn't have Verdun. We were building the whole thing. We didn't have a lot of support from the city.
Right.
So with that budget, it seems like a lot of work has been cut out. So again, it does seem appropriate. It's just hard for me to gauge. So it seems appropriate, but again, if someone was to be like, well, we can't do it for that, but I would do it for this, I would just want the ad hoc, the board, Terry, you, whoever, just to be able to, have some tolerance, I guess, and make that decision.
Well, you make a good point, though. The fact that we've really reduced the workload considerably, even though there's an inflation factor, I would kind of feel like if there was somebody or a company that kind of had their act together, they could know that, well, they could do a really good job and wow us on the administrative part, which I think it's a fair price for. And if we saw that they were willing to do more, we might be, moving more to them instead of somebody else, So I think it's a nice way, it's a nice price range to get somebody in. All we really need is the administrative piece. So if they can prove themselves there and they can do more, we're all ready to go for expanding. And we could kind of make that call. Somebody really good might be game to do a loss leader if they saw it like that, I think it might be priced okay, but I can go whatever the board's pleasure is.
I think you're right, Tom. I think it's priced well. So, I feel comfortable moving forward. I feel comfortable moving forward. And if we don't have a tolerance or a buffer, we could really move quickly for a special meeting and get everyone together and just talk about it. But I feel good about it. I feel good about the budget and scope of work.
Okay. So 30,000 is your good 24-month, 60,000 max.
Yeah, I'm okay with what we have as discussed. So, I'm done with input. Thank you.
If, I think my last question is if, let's say we do get the right fit or we think it's the right fit, are we locked into a two-year contract? If after like 6 months, if we were like, oh my God, we evaluate and then we decide that we want to terminate this within the first year, is there a back out or?
Yeah, you have a 30-day termination that's in these contracts, and
Okay.
I kind of pull up the draft.
No, that's okay. If you say 30-day, I believe you. Yeah.
It's in here, so it kind of shows you up under termination. You have a 30-day notice.
Now, I didn't look closely, and there might be, but it might be nice to specify there's like a 3-month review. You don't have to specify, what that entails, but just it gives us a chance where everybody knows we're going to sit down and kind of take a close look at it after 3 months. You could always give a 30-day notice after that if you really, whatever, but just so we're all clear, give everybody an out, so to speak.
Okay. The contract template will go with the RFP. That's typically what we do when we send out an RFP. So they will be able to see what that termination is, and we could always add it to the RFP.
Yeah. Did you have a way of specifying the changes we talked about as we went? You made some modifications to what's before us, so it seems like we could have a motion to the effect of staff's recommendation as modified during the board meeting, and we'd be okay. Are we close?
I think you're close. I think we're at a place possibly to go to public.
Yeah.
Perfect. Then let's do that. We'll open the public comment period. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this? Okay, seeing with no public comment, we can go ahead and close the public comment period. Any additional board comments? Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion in any direction for this?
Other than I think what Terry is working on there, I'd make that contract review at 90 days, you can even just leave it contract review at 90 days.
Okay.
I think that would be fine, because it's already included that you can always give 30 days notice, but this just makes it clear we're going to do a review at 90 days. May not be any consequences, it's just a review. If that's adequate for everybody.
That sounds good. Is 90 days enough
Yep.
time, Terry, depending on who's coming in and all, to get them up to speed?
I would think so.
Okay.
I mean, administrative services, I believe that would be good. It's like us under a 90-day right now type of thing. You're knowing if you're getting, if the agendas are being posted on time, if it has, that person's coordinating with your chair on what the agenda items are going to be, all of those pieces. As they get going, it'll be rough at first, but then it'll flow from there. And you'll have that feel of that communication effort, making sure that making sure that there's a quorum, a new place opened, it's on Visit Atascadero, because we talked about those kind of administrative things that are on there on the dining and stuff like that, kind of getting into more of the minutia of that, but you'll know if that's happening or not.
You could even add in their contract review at 90 days for board input with contract or something like that. It just kind of takes the awkwardness off if you have to have a little bit of a talk, well, it's just routine. And it gives the folks, I assume even if there were some problems, we're going to give some guidance, polish it up and a little bit and keep going. But they don't have to feel bad like, oh, they're being called on the carpet kind of a thing. I think it actually can be kind of a positive way to do business rather than, seen as a negative review. We could say, hey, great job, let's keep going, and we always have the component, well, we can always give 30 days notice if we so choose. So I'm okay with that, and I'd be game to make a motion if you might want to conclude public comment, but maybe we have.
I'll turn that back over to
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yep. We can close public comment, and then if we have a motion, we can move forward with that.
I move we adopt staff's recommendation on the Destination Management Administrative Services request for proposal, as modified during our board meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
Okay.
I'll
I will
second.
second. Dina got it.
I got it.
Okay. So we've got a motion by Tom and a second by Dina. Can we get a roll call, please, on that?
Certainly. Board Member Alexander.
Yes.
Board Member O'Malley.
Yes.
Board Member Sohi.
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Ketchum.
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. Chairperson Harden.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very
Perfect.
good.
Very good.
I think that's it. I think we can adjourn this meeting and see each other again on the next regularly scheduled one on the 15th. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks,
Perfect.
everybody.
Goodbye. Goodbye,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
You.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.